With that being said, we're going to get right into the mix here. Welcome back to the channel as your boy Cheap Ludes. I'm sure you guys are well aware at this point of the tier list series. I've dropped 4 episodes already. If you have not checked any of those out, you should definitely do that. I'll link them at the end of the video. I have a whole playlist for it. So let's get some parameters out of the way first and foremost. S tier, unquestionable best cards in the game. A tier, just a shade under S tier. Maybe they have an issue. Maybe they can't have some certain badges applied, etc. B tier, very, very good cards. I mean, this is what majority of the community is going to be using. C tier, still usable cards, but maybe they're outdated. Maybe they have like some clear weaknesses, etc. We'll dive into it. D tier, meh, they're there, but for the most part, you can do a little bit better, at least in my opinion. So, and F tier. At this point, I don't think there's any cards that really belong in trash tier, which is why I haven't included it. I'm sure the next batch of tier lists, when I'll include trash tier, that's when we'll start to see cards get real bad. So I try to rate cards between next gen and current gen. I also try to rate them without additional badges put on them. That being said, I will factor in like cards that can get certain badges, etc., especially when it's between 2 of the same cards, as we've been seeing a lot this year. So with that being said, let's get underway. Channing Frye. C. Channing Frye is always an early game beast because at the beginning of 2Ks, outside of glitch cards and outside of like Bargnani and Rafe LaFrance, a lot of centers can't shoot, so Channing Frye is usually pretty good. I would put him in C tier. I mean, he's got an abysmally slow jump shot. He's kind of slow on his feet, but I mean, he holds it down for the most part. Daryl Dawkins. Look, if we're talking about nicknames, S tier, because his nickname is Chocolate Thunder, which is about the coolest nickname that could ever exist. I would still throw him in C tier, though. I just think there's guys that do what he does significantly better at the center position now. Mason Plumlee. F. There is just an overabundance of Plumlees in the world. I don't know how many kids they had, but it just feels like there's a lot of Plumlees and there's a lot of Zellers out here. I feel like they all went to Duke, too. Mason's decent, but F tier. I mean, it's not like he's bad. He's just not very good. Matt Bonner. Honestly, this hurts my soul as a big Matt Bonner fan. The Red Mamba himself, I don't want to put him in F because it hurts, but I kind of have to. Al Horford. This card plays good defense and can stretch the floor, so for that reason, I would put him in C tier. I don't necessarily think he's the greatest. He is a starter card that you got in the promo packs, but at the same time, still pretty decent. Alonzo Mourning. C, I'm almost tempted to put him in B tier because of how good he is on the defensive end. Honestly, this is one of the best defensive cards in the game. Outside of some guys we're going to see in like A and S tier, I actually think Alonzo Mourning deserves B tier. He's going to end up being like one of the lowest cards on B tier, but he still deserves to be there. Arvydas Sabonis. A. This dude is hands down one of the most annoying cards in this game. I'm not even kidding. Like, if you've matched up with this guy, especially on next gen, he is hands down one of the most annoying cards in the game. The one thing I will say, and I will give 2K credit for this, is they did a good job of showing just how dominant Arvydas Sabonis was and why he was dominant with this card. Sometimes 2K does do a good job of that, like occasionally. Look, I'm the first to slander 2K when they deserve to be slandered, but sometimes like they do a good job of showing people who otherwise wouldn't understand why a player was great in his day, especially in the early game of my team. We saw why Arvydas was so good, and this card is stupid. He can shoot. He's not the fastest, but he's like so big that it doesn't really matter. I would put him in A tier. Bam Adebayo. If I got Alonzo Mourning in B tier, I think Bam deserves to be there too. I would switch these around because Bam's speed is a little bit better, and I think that makes him a slightly better than Alonzo Mourning. He can also shoot a wee bit better. They're just defensive monsters. I would put him in B tier. I would use him over Channing Frye, Daryl Dawkins, and Horford. Same with Ben Wallace. He's a little bit undersized, so for that reason, I'd probably put him in C tier. He is a great defensive card. On next gen, he's probably up in B tier, but on current, he's probably in C. Like, Bam brings you a little bit more floor stretching, which is why I would put him ahead of Ben Wallace, and Alonzo Mourning brings you a little bit more size and at least gold blinders with his super slow jump shot. Bill Laimbeer. I would put him in C tier. Masked Laimbeer, C tier. Unmasked Laimbeer, D tier. His jump shot is so bad, you honestly kind of need that blinders. It really, really helps. Even off the pick and pop, like that blinders is super, super important. So I would put him in C tier. Bob McAdoo. Look, I like Bob McAdoo. I do, and I guarantee we get a pink diamond one that's basically like a knockoff Giannis at some point. They always do that. And he'll be good, but D tier is appropriate for him. Brad Doherty. By Daryl Dawkins. I think Daryl Dawkins is a little bit better than Brad Doherty, but he's okay. Great defender, good rebounder. He booms. It's just he's a limited card. You know what I mean? And when I say limited, I don't mean like from the game mode. I mean he has limitations, and they're quite obvious. Christian Wood, B. He's actually not quite as bad defensively as you would think. That being said, he's not incredibly good, but he's a great offensive player. I wish his ball handling was a little bit up. I mean, that's something he does in the NBA occasionally, so I'm kind of shocked his ball handling is as low as it is. I don't think he should have like, gold handles for days and stuff, but he should have at least be able to handle the ball a bit. He's good though. Ray Allen base, like B tier is appropriate. David Robinson. So I would put this David Robinson in A tier, and I would put this David Robinson in S tier. The reason I would put him there is this one can equip any badge in the game, which is important. You can basically deck this D-Rob out however good you want him to be, essentially. And I think that does make a huge difference. This D-Rob's still fake, though. He's still one of the better defensive cards in this game. He can stretch the floor. He can dunk over everybody. He's the most muscular player I've ever seen. For that reason, I would probably put him in A tier. DeAndre Ayton. I still think Ayton's better than all the guys in C tier, but not by very much. So it's possible he doesn't stay there for very often. DeAndre Jordan. I've been unnecessarily harsh to this card, and I think if he could just stretch the floor a little bit, I would put him higher than C tier. I would say he's the best card in C tier, and I know a lot of people do like him. I mean, I can't say he's that much worse than Ayton. Honestly, I really can't, if he even is. DeMarcus Cousins. C. He's all right. He's not the greatest at really anything. He's just okay at a bunch of stuff. Dikembe Mutombo. As much as I dislike this card, he's still B tier. He plays good defense. He can shoot the three. He's just not very good at it. I might shake up B tier and drop some of these guys like DeAndre, and actually both DeAndres are probably going to be the two that get dropped first and foremost. Dino Raja. This hurts my soul, but I put him in C tier. He's a really good shot blocker, but that's about all you really get from Dino. He's okay in the post. He's not really big enough to really affect the game that much. He's kind of fast, but not really. It actually kind of hurts me how they did my boy Dino. Dwight Howard, he's one of the best post scoring cards in the game. He's still worse than David Robinson at doing that, though. So for that reason, I'd probably put him in B tier. Great defender, though. He's like a souped up version of Alonzo Mourning. George Mikan, he's the best card in B. Actually, I would put him in A tier. Honestly, Mikan kind of angers me at times based on him missing a lot of whites and selling a lot of shots, but he's still really good. He's still significantly better than all the cards in B tier. My thing is that the center position is one of the most unbalanced positions in the game. These three guys up here are so much better than the guys in B tier. Hakeem Olajuwon, I would say he's A tier. You could put him ahead of David Robinson. You could put him behind. It doesn't really matter. I think Robinson's still a little bit better, but Hakeem is really nasty. So for that reason, I'd put him in A. Tempted to throw him in S tier, but I don't think he's even close to as good as this D-Rob. To be honest, I really don't. Ivica Zubac, F. James Wiseman, I think he's C. You know what? I actually think this card's really good. I'm gonna drop Ayton and put Wiseman up in C tier. That I think that looks better. Yeah, that does. Lonzo Mourning and DeAndre Jordan are the first to drop because I like Bam a lot. Wiseman's good. He handles the ball really well. He's got a very greenable jump shot. He can attack the rim really. I'm really upset he didn't get that Evo. I think that would have been huge for him. Smokeem Noah. I mean, he's C tier. Great defender. That's about it. He's better than Lambeer and Bob McAdoo. Joe Barry Carroll. The worst card in D tier, but he's better than Zubac and Plumlee and stuff, I would say. Joel Embiid. B. I don't think he's quite on the A tier level anymore, but he's still good. I would put him in B tier. That's yeah. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I would throw him in B. All these guys can do what he does, but better. Mikan's not as good of a post scorer as Kareem is, that I will say, but he's better at everything else. So this makes sense. Karl Anthony Towns, great floor spacer, but he brings absolutely no defense to the table. I mean, he's got a big body and he can rebound and stuff, but that's about it. I don't really think he should be any higher than this. I would use Ayton and Dino over him probably. Kevin McHale is A tier as well. You could argue he's better than George Mikan, or they're about the same. I think they're about the same, personally. I think Mikan might be slightly worse, but Mikhail's probably A tier. This Mikhail is, I mean, he's not garbage. Like, he's not as bad as like Lambeer and Bob McAdoo and stuff, so I'd put him in C tier. I mean, I would use him over Joakim Noah. Yeah, I probably would. Put him by like Daryl Dawkins and Brad Daugherty. Kristaps is still one of the most annoying cards in the game. For that reason, I would put him in B tier. His badge count is low. He's not the greatest defender, but he's 7'3". He can cover the entire half court basically by himself. For that reason, I would put him in B tier. If you've ever rolled up against a guy who paint sits with Kristaps, you know how overpowered this card can be at times. LaMarcus Aldridge. I think he's just not that good defensively and kind of slow on his feet. And for that reason, I'd probably put him at the top of C tier. I'm going to move Alonzo Mourning down. I just don't think he's really that much better than like Aldridge and Dino and stuff like that. So I'm going to put him in C tier as well. DeAndre is a little bit different of a player, though. He's very close to like Dwight Howard. So I'm going to keep him up there. But yeah, I mean, LaMarcus goes there. If you like LaMarcus, like B tier, like I think he's much better over on next gen than he is on current. Marc Gasol. I mean, you could argue that he's A tier, but I think he's just worse Hakeem Olajuwon. So I'm going to put him at the top of B tier for that reason. Mark Eaton. He's a paint beast. I can't say he's really that much worse than like Joakim Noah. Marvin Bagley, I hate you. He's probably actually C tier, but I'm going to put him in D tier because I dislike this card. Mike Muscala. Yeah, you guys know where Mike Muscala is going. He's going to the top of C tier. I mean, not many centers bring you gold limitless and they're able to stretch the floor like Mike Muscala can. Now, granted, you will instantly regret that decision because he will not play defense at all, but Yao Ming. On next gen, he's probably C tier. On current gen, he's D tier, so I'm going to put him in D, top of D. Still an absolute paint beast. You know what? He's not that much worse than Mark Eaton, even if he is. Mitchell Robinson is incredible defensively, so I'm going to put him in C tier. Montrezl Harrell. This card sucks. I'm sorry, it does, though. Moses Malone. I would put Moses Malone in B tier for sure. On both next and current gen, I think he deserves to be there. He can play the post. He can shoot. He's got a very greenable jump shot. He does need some additions, but he can. He runs the floor pretty well. He rebounds well. There's not really much this card doesn't do. I'm going to put Christian Wood behind Dikembe. Yeah. Miles Turner. I would say he's, if not the best card in B tier, like the second best card in B tier. Like, I think Mikan's a little bit better overall, but Miles Turner definitely deserves to be there. He's a very, very good card. Pure offensively, he's like a better version of what Christian Wood brings you, with a worse jump shot, in my opinion. Nate Thurman. So this Nate Thurman, I would actually put between like Kareem and Dwight Howard. This one, because he can have a bunch of badge additions, I would put by Moses Malone. You could argue one is better than the other, but I think this is appropriate. Jokic. I like Jokic. He's just a horrible defensive card. Like, horrible. And he doesn't bring you like the speed and ball handling that like Wiseman brings, or like the floor covering ability that like Kristaps brings. Some people really like Jokic. I would say he's the best card in C tier, but I think C tier is appropriate. Vucevic. I'll be honest, this card drives me nuts because he like refuses to play defense, but like Christian Wood at least can like play defense, but Vucevic just refuses to. He can still stretch the floor though. He's still good. I would put him in B tier. Rafe LaFrance, B as well. He's also a horrible defender, kind of like Jokic, but at least he has like a greenable jump shot. You know, Jokic is a wonderful passer though. I'm going to move him up. He is a really, really good passer, and for that reason, I will move him up. Richaun Holmes. He, just like Alonzo Mourning and Ben Wallace, is a great defensive card, but I think that's about all you really get from him. He can shoot a little bit. Rick Smits. As much as I like Rick Smits, he's D tier. Gobert's a really, really good defensive card, so I'd put him by like Mitchell Robinson. I might move Rick Smits up. I don't think he deserves to be in this garbage tier. Rick Smits is tight. C tier. Ha Sung Jin. If we're talking about next gen, he's absolutely B tier, but he's not very good on current gen. So for that reason, I'm going to put him in C tier. I know people get very defensive about Ha. And like I said, if you're on next gen, he's B tier and he's probably up closer to like Vucevic and like Kareem area, but he's not very good on current gen. And for that reason, I would probably, you know what, I'll put him in B. He's still good enough to be there though. He's usable enough on current gen. Yeah, because he's not that much worse or better than Shaq. They're about the same. I would put them, where's the paint beast category? Yeah, there we go. Simbular, D. Stacey King, F. Theo Ratliff, he plays decent defense, but yeah, D tier makes sense for him. The GOAT Tiago Splitter, D. Tyson Chandler is a really good defender, so I'd put him by like Rick Spitz and Gobert. Yes, they are better than Yao Ming because they can run for more than 3 minutes without getting winded. So Vin Baker, C tier for sure. Vin Baker's a beast. Come on. He's the GOAT. Wendell Carter Jr. I mean C tier. Yeah, he's better than like Bill Laimbeer and D-Cuz. Rashawn Holmes. Yeah, I put him like right there. Wilt Chamberlain. In the paint beast area over here. You could argue he's better than Kareem. You could argue he's worse. I would put him right by Kareem and Shaq, honestly. I think it's probably appropriate. This Wilt is decent as a defender, probably by Gobert and like Rick Smits and stuff. Like, that's probably where I would put him. It's got decent stamina too. Ilgauskas, as much as I like Ilgauskas, with the new guys that have been added to the game at B tier, I don't think he's quite that good anymore. I would put him by like Karl Anthony Towns, behind like Ben Wallace, slightly over like Wendell Carter. Wang ZZ. Oh, Wang is such a monster. I think he's better than Dikembe. I'm being serious. I really do. Like, Wang is so good, especially if you badge him up. He's a great stretch big. He's so huge. He can definitely play in the paint too. He's good on both gens. This card is fantastic. I would say that like Thurman, Moses, Embiid, Miles, and Marc Gasol are better than him for sure. And you can make a case for any of the guys in B tier. I think any of the guys in B tier are very close. Even DeAndre Jordan, if you fit a certain play style, he's such a good rebounder and such a good defender that I think you could argue that he deserves to be up there. If you wanted to move Jokic and DeAndre Jordan down, I would hear you out on those guys. I think everybody else deserves to be B tier though. And I think legitimately David Robinson deserves to be the only card in S tier because he's clearly the best center in the game, because you can't play Pink Diamond tier without running into this single David Robinson card every single game on every team that you play against. I rest my case. As always, it's been your boy Cheap Ludes. I will see you guys in the next one. Look, drop a like on this video, comment. I only get like 400 views on these. I like doing them, so it doesn't bother me, but you know what I mean. Anyways, I'll see you tomorrow in season 3. Bye.